You don't have to be a crypto believer to think that blockchain will underpin the future of any technology. From fintech, health and legal to marketing, sports and entertainment, experts agree that the future will be tokenized. To discuss the topic in more detail, I invited Brent Annells, Chief Marketing Officer of Smart Token Labs, who shared with me the endless opportunities of tokenization and what kind of open royalty projects are already happening that we should be aware of. With Facebook and Uber in his resume, you don't want to miss his perspective on how blockchain will completely transform the way you engage with your audience. Enjoy this episode and don't forget to subscribe to our channels wherever you're watching or listening.
Welcome to The Product Show. Insightful interviews with founders and tech leaders sharing how they hack product growth.
Hello, Brent. It's a pleasure to have you on the podcast. You're the Chief Marketing Officer of Smart Token Labs, a company offering an array of products aiming to simplify the process of tokenization for developers and brands. Can you explain in simple terms what tokenization is and why you believe it will underpin the future of tech?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me on the show, Desi. I'd love to answer that question. I mean, we at Smart Token Labs, we've had a vision of tokenization, delivering a fully integrated web. We've had that vision for the last 5 to 6 years since we started in 2017. And what we mean by that is essentially an integrated web that delivers better experiences for consumers and delivers greater efficiency for businesses. And it's based on web services. It's based on composability being brought to web services. And it's a fundamentally different view of tokenization than probably most people have held to this date. Most people think about tokens as assets and they think about them as collectibles or currencies. We think of tokens as applications and we think of them as the integration points of the next web.
Amazing. Can you give me a few real-world examples of projects that are already happening, something you've been working on, or probably not necessarily related to Smart Token Labs, just to help us visualize this concept?
Sure. I mean, look, we did our first advanced tokenization use case back in 2018 where we tokenized event tickets and enabled you to access, as a VIP at the 2018 FIFA World Cup, we tokenized your ticket and you could enter the stadium and you could scan it at the gate. We did a car ownership token, a smart token that represented your car ownership in 2020. So we did a lot of experimentation with these types of use cases. More recently, we've been deploying in areas related to loyalty, membership, and sports. And so, for example, we've delivered smart tokens as integration points around event experiences, specifically in the Web3 ecosystem. So we've delivered a thing called permissionless perks, which we delivered that at DevCon 6 in Bogota with 6,000 Ethereum developers in attendance. So it's the world's largest Ethereum developer event. And we enabled the Ethereum Foundation that was the organizer of the event to issue a smart token which represented your ticket ownership. And that ticket has a series of data related to it, data points. So it shows that you're one of 6,000 attendees, you're an advanced Ethereum developer, you're in Bogota and you're attending this event, which is a high ticket price event. And we were able to stand up around that ticket. The attendees got this ticket, which they were able to secure via an email as opposed to minting. And they're able to use that ticket to unlock a range of offers and experiences that were provided to them by third parties that weren't directly involved in the event, but they could offer it to them based on this token as an integration point. So things like localized business services, venture capitalists would do priority reviews of your business pitch because they knew that you were an Ethereum developer. There were events on the ground that were side events from the event itself. So it created this integration point around the entire event experience where the token unlocks a whole series of things for the participants.
There is something else that many brands are really excited about, and this is the opportunity of using tokenization for loyalty programs, what's being referred to as open loyalty programs. How are Web3 loyalty programs different from traditional loyalty programs that we've been seeing in the last 20 years, even more? What is different? I have the feeling that sometimes brands tend to plug in this NFT digital token element without really the need to do it. So what's the difference?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a very good question. It's a very interesting topic area. And I think, if you start with the problem in loyalty is probably best represented by the data point that 77% of transactional loyalty programs fail within 2 years. And I think we all know that our loyalty program that's offered to us by our airline or our telco or our bank, has a bunch of these ancillary sort of offers and rewards. I get free coffees, I get discounted sandwiches, I get maybe a movie ticket. And it's just not really that meaningful to me. And so this is a fundamental problem that loyalty programs have. And I think the big push in loyalty is it's how do you deliver utility to your participants that's relevant to what you as a brand is doing. So, for example, if you're a travel company, a travel brand, say you're an airline, your customers have a travel experience. And the airline ticket and the flight is a part of that travel experience. And our vision of open loyalty is basically giving an airline company the ability to issue a smart token, which represents the airline ticket that someone holds and a series of data points around that, where they're traveling to, where they left from, where they're going to, what time they're traveling, maybe the status of their travel, whether they're a premium travel or an economy travel. And then giving them the ability to use that token, the user, the customer, to take that token that's been issued by the airline and then take it out to a whole series of web services providers and integrate into those services that they offer, whether it's hotel booking or car rentals or city-based attractions or insurance providers. And by carrying the token into those services, they get more personalized experiences, they get better experiences, they get less friction in experiences related to the entire travel experience. And that's our view of the step change that tokenization represents. It's not necessarily about NFTs. It's not necessarily about tokenizing points and making them composable. We think it's about bringing a utility to the event experience, the travel experience, the home ownership experience, the fandom experience, and integrating into all these related things that you do and making it easier for end users.
Amazing. Yeah. So it's a bit like treating the consumer not as my client, not as my user, but looking at people or the consumers of many brands. So how can we as companies and brands be a bit more connected to help people have better experiences? And it sounds like really impressive. It's really exciting. But there is a but, which is we are still in this phase of it's coming one day. So how far are we from this reality?
Well, I think we're getting closer and closer. So, and I think a big part of that is, our approach to tokenization is to bring tokenization into Web 2 and to make these large-scale experiences that happen today with Web 2 enterprises, automotive manufacturers, telcos, banks, travel companies, all the service providers around that and the customers, to make those experiences better. And so in doing that, one of the bridges that you need to cross is you need to make it easier. So you can, smart tokens technology that we use enables you to tokenize things like an airline ticket and hold it as either an off-chain or an on-chain token. And an off-chain token means basically a cryptographic proof against, for example, an airline ticket, and certain data points on the airline ticket can be issued to you and linked to it as an attestation, linked to an email address. So suddenly the user has a cryptographic proof. I can use that as an integration point to unlock services from third-party providers, which makes the integration much easier between the ticket issuer and the third-party provider, a range of issues related to database integration and privacy. It makes all that easier. But people can access it. The aperture is suddenly all of my customers can do that. They're not just the ones who have a Web3 wallet or just the ones who know how to mint an NFT. So the stepping stone into this, we believe, is both on-chain and off-chain tokens, the ability to participate in these experiences. It makes sense to be on-chain for certain types of things if you want to be able to trade the token, if it's got a monetary value, that type of thing. But if it's an integration point, it doesn't necessarily have to be on-chain. So opening up the aperture, making it easier, then we're starting to move into use cases which can become much more mainstream, much faster.
Right, so I don't really need to understand whether that's happening on-chain or what's the technology behind it. I just need to experience it to feel the benefit and to understand it.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Right, yeah. Which industries do you think will be the first to witness mass adoption? You mentioned the travel industry. There are huge opportunities in front of sports as well. Where do you see kind of the first wave of adoption?
Well, I think the sort of intersection between loyalty, membership, sports, entertainment, and maybe creators. I think it's that bucket, because I think if you take sports as an example, you basically have a fan of a sport or a code, a fan of baseball or a fan of cricket, and you have the code, and you have the teams, and you have the players that they love and they want to be close to, and then you have all of the ecosystem of sponsors and commercial partners around that. So you have this natural network around it, and basically it's this continuous. There's a real business problem there. It operates at multiple levels. So you need the code needs more people to get closer to the game and be more part of the overall experience. The code needs to deliver better ROI to the sponsors and the commercial partners of the game. The fans want to get closer to the experience and be recognized and rewarded for being fans. So you've got this sort of natural ecosystem that's already operating. And by bringing tokenization into that, you can deliver real world benefits to the fan experience that also offer benefits to the code or the players and the third party sponsors. So I can give you a really quick example of that if you like.
Yes, please.
We recently did a project called CatchMax, and it's a digital membership program for one of the biggest top 5 cricket players in the world. His name's Glenn Maxwell, and so he's an Australian cricket player, very, very famous. Cricket, if you're not familiar with cricket, it's kind of similar to baseball, that sort of level. It's a massive game in the continent, in India, in parts of Europe, and certainly in Asia Pac. And so we created a digital membership program for fans of Glenn Maxwell, and it was called CatchMax. And we issued a token as part of the membership. And the membership, not unlike a lot of other membership programs, it unlocks these very specific fan experiences and rewards and offers. The token itself, and as part of signing up for the membership, you get to, a little bit like an NFT, you get to create your own bespoke membership pass. So there's all these different backgrounds and all these different pictures, and you can customize it so it's really your membership card sort of represents Glenn Maxwell in the way that you want to see him on your card. You can go through all of that process, and you can create a card, and you create an off-chain token, which is a cryptographic proof of your membership that's attached to your email address and lives in your browser. And then there's a whole collection of sponsors and ecosystem players, so sponsors, really bespoke cricket sponsors like ASICS and Kookaburra, who do the shoes and do the bats. So for fans of cricket, of Glenn Maxwell, that are cricket players that want that stuff, they're getting very bespoke discounted offers from those headline cricket sponsors. They're also getting things like discounted streaming offers on cricket via sports streaming services, where they'll give you a discounted opportunity to stream cricket into your home. There's offers from the code related to game day attendance, which are discounted tickets and priority seating and things like that, which recognise you. And then finally, there's brand sponsors of the game like KFC that are doing very bespoke things. So you've created this way for fans to get closer to the game, to the code, more involved in it, closer to the player they love. They've got a token. They can mint it online if they wish to, so they can convert it to an NFT, but they don't need to. And that's an example of, I think we're going to see a lot more of that. And there's already a bunch of that happening in the US with NBL and that sort of thing, where that intersection between membership and sports, and you're really activating a network, a commercial network around the fandom experience in sports where all parties are winning.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is so much more transparency for sponsors to kind of finally understand who do they engage with. Is their message actually reaching fans?
Well, exactly. So, I mean, it's that quintessential problem in sponsorship. It's closed loop ROI. How do I prove that, most sponsorships operate at the brand level, at an awareness level, and it's hard to quantify the commercial return that you get as a sponsor. It's an age-old problem. It's always existed. It's never gone away. Every sport, every code, every star player that's doing sponsorship deals needs a way to try and close the loop for the sponsors. And tokenization, by basically creating a token and giving it to the fan, and then the fan can go directly to the sponsor to have an experience with this token, and the fan is taking the really important part about tokenization in this instance is the fan is taking these proofs to these third-party sponsors and choosing to share those proofs with them. I am a fan of cricket. I am a fan of Glenn Maxwell. I am posting regularly. I am attending games. And as those, data points are being shared progressively, then they can get more personalised offers or rewards from these sponsors. And you're closing the loop for everybody.
Right. Amazing. How did you choose the fans, the members that could participate and get access to these tokens, or was it open to everyone?
It was open to everyone, so it's a paid membership. So
Okay.
we took it to market with. I mean, it's really interesting. So Glenn Maxwell has 10 million followers on social media, and built up over a long period of time. But as is usually the case, when you try and activate those fans on social media, you get far less than 1% organic reach when he does posts to them. So what was happening as part of this membership program is we were bringing them into Discord, and they were doing fan watching parties. So they were actually doing, when game day was happening, they were all coming together, and Glenn's coach and his manager were coming and sort of like moderating these, interactive sessions with true fans of Glenn. Glenn was doing was doing AMAs into this Discord community directly, and so fans were getting this opportunity to directly interact with him. So over a period of a couple of months, we built that Discord community up to, I think, 5,000 or 6,000 members. That became the nucleus of this really sort of turbocharged fan base. And then basically we launched the membership pass, and within 7 days, 16,000 passes were generated by his fans, and that was we did a pre-launch period for 7 days where we gave them the pass for free, and it's now just converted to the paid pass. So, in Web3 terms, onboarding 16,000 pass holders in 7 days is it's a more material number, and what is they're super fans, so they're massive lovers of Glenn, and they're massive lovers of the code, and they're super high value to sponsors.
Yeah, I think the challenge for me from what you're saying is, how do you educate people about Web3, about the opportunities using NFTs and digital tokens to get access to Glenn in this case. So you have this really, from where I stand, this really narrow target audience that is between the intersection, is in the intersection between cricket fans and people into Web3. From my experience, it's very difficult to get people excited about Web3 and NFTs if they already don't know what this is about. Did you have this learning curve with this project, or did you manage to engage people outside of the Web3 space? Because the acquisition journey or kind of the onboarding was so seamless that they didn't really realize there was a token behind it.
Well, exactly right. So our view, if you go back to the very beginning and our vision around tokenization, this idea of the integrated web, and this idea of composable services around experiences that create better user experiences. So there was no mention. There was no mention of Web3. There was no mention of tokenization. There was just the ability for. So we specifically targeted just cricket lovers, and there was no intersection with Web3. So we just went to them and said, if you're a fan, you can join this Discord, and if you can create this customized digital pass. It was just a fun experience to do online. And then they have got an off-chain token that's generated based on when they sign up, it's issued against their email address, and it's stored in their browser. And that's possible for them to find out. It's explained on the site, but none of them need to find that out. All they know is when they turn up at the ASIC site, once they've created a pass, and they turn up at the ASIC site, or they turn up on the KFC promotional page, or they turn up on the Kookaburra site to get a cricket bat, suddenly they've got like a surprise and delight experience. They're recognised instantaneously as a Glenn Maxwell fan and a member of Catchmax, and they're given these personalised services. So that's like a really, really basic example of this composability in services around a fan experience that's enabled by tokenization. And this is a real technology innovation. These sorts of, all of the things that I'm describing, if there's a Web 2 developer listening to the podcast, he'll be shouting already, or he or she will probably be shouting already, saying, I can do that already. I don't need to do tokenization. And you can, but it's cumbersome and it's costly and it takes time, and you have all of these privacy issues and you have all these database integration issues. So what tokenization does is it makes it much, much easier for the fan to get issued a token, to have these things, and then to go out and integrate with all these services and get these personalized benefits without the same integration burden or the privacy sharing risks that currently exist. So you're just going to see more and more and more of this. So we're very much starting in this intersection between loyalty and sports and membership and fandom. But when you start to move into airlines and the travel experience, British Airlines was known for 25 years as the world's favourite airline. And, just like every other airline, they want to own the end-to-end travel experience for their customers. And the best way that they can do that and create more loyal customers that spend more with them and choose them as their first franchise every time is to create amazing utility around all of the travel experiences that consumer has. And that's what tokenization is going to unlock and deliver, we believe.
Right. Other than the lack of understanding and knowledge from people and from companies generally, what do you think are other factors that are slowing down growth? And we are still kind of this in experimentation stage.
Well, I think it's just the complexity of the tech. So it's, the examples that I'm providing, like, the integrated web, seamless user experiences, removing friction, better efficiency, plug and play type stuff, right? That sounds like diametrically opposed to the Web3 experience that most people have with a web and private keys, with a wallet and private keys and minting and getting their wallets hacked. So I think the challenge in Web3 has been to, as with all new technology phases, it can't be explained, it needs to be experienced. And the experience needs to be better than what you're currently doing. And so I think we really see tokenization as bringing Web3 technology to solve existing problems around user experience in Web2 at scale, and it will be seamless for the end user. So then when you're solving real problems, or creating amazing experiences, it just flows. But the challenge at this point has been, lots of experiments, DeFi 1.0, DeFi 2.0, initially currencies, and then it was collectibles, and, then it was sort of like soulbound tokens and identity, and it's all very tech heavy, and we haven't seen a lot of examples breaking out into these mainstream areas. But I think we're really on the cusp of that now.
Full composability and interoperability is an aspect that's definitely delaying adoption a little bit, simply because I still can't use my tokens across platforms and brands. But another aspect which I think it's more problematic is governance and regulation. I'm personally very enthusiastic about tokenization of real estate, about the opportunity to use smart contract for transfer of ownership, or even to own a piece of property or pieces of properties as an investment. The opportunities are limitless, really. But the problem is, if the token or contract is somehow compromised, who do I go to? Who is going to help me? There is no consumer protection law at the moment that can assist me. And that's a huge problem, right? On the other hand, the core principle of blockchain is to remove the middleman, which makes things a little bit tricky. Can we try and describe the perfect balance between decentralization and having some sort of protection and compliance with the laws and regulations? What do you think is the ideal scenario?
I think it's, I think there's a few elements to that in terms of the perfect scenario. So obviously what you're referring to largely is the securitization side of things, and it's basically tokens as assets. And so, when you're in the space of tokens as assets, and it's an anonymous wallet's holding the assets, and it's unclear, regulatory environment in the US, for example, around whether it's a security or whether it's a commodity, that needs to be solved by regulators to give consumers confidence. And I think Web3 has just had this experience. There's been a lot of innovation and a lot of experimentation, and you can say that the experiment is out on peer-to-peer money. Peer-to-peer money, alternative digital source of currency, Bitcoin, it's job's done. So we've had this transformative way for people to exchange money peer-to-peer. There's more questions around the sort of broader securitization stuff, which I don't have a strong point of view on, other than, the market will find the right level. And you're seeing that already around the world. I think what's happened in the US with the SEC action over the last month or two, it seems to have really galvanized the space. You've got Hong Kong firing on all cylinders. You've got A16Z heading off to London. You've got Dubai. There's all these other regions around the world with welcome arms opening crypto. And then you're starting to see the US, with some big players like Coinbase really sort of taking on the mantle of getting it's what everyone's been asking for a long time. So I think it's going to run its own race. It's going to find its own level, and it will just become clearer in the quite near term, I believe. For us and our view of tokenization, our view of the tokenized web, tokens as integration points, we don't really. We're trying to solve a mainstream Web 2 set of problems around integration and better services and better experiences and greater business efficiency. And I think, what we'll be doing that in parallel and lockstep with some of the other asset stuff. But tokens as applications, as game-changing applications that users control, and they carry their own data and they use that to exchange for personalized services. We think that's a super exciting area. And we actually think in that space, we are going to help compliance rather than cause more challenges, because you're going to basically, token issuers like an airline or an automotive company or, a Department of Motor Vehicles that issue a token to an end user. They're giving them the data, and they're giving the user the ability to then go and connect with third-party services and choose to disclose whatever data they choose to disclose in order to get personalized services. So you're actually doing this end run around the whole, personally identifiable information PII barrier to these types of integrations. So we think it's going to deliver greater compliance and greater regulatory benefits than the other way around.
What are the countries and geographies that are paving the way for Web3 at the moment, especially from regulation point of view?
So, I mean,
it's definitely not the UK and US, unfortunately.
No, it's not. Well, certainly not the US. I mean, I think the UK seems to be heading that way a little bit, but I mean, it's very clear that Dubai. I mean, I'm not an expert, so I'll just caveat on. I have a perspective that's not an expert perspective, but it would certainly seem that Asia for quite a while now has been leading the way. Markets like Korea in particular, just huge crypto adoption. Bit of a hiccup with Don Kwon, but I think they've got that people can participate freely in crypto, in currencies, in assets, and with a lot more certainty than in other markets. You're obviously seeing Hong Kong really stand up and open the doors and saying we're going to have a crypto friendly environment here, and that they seem to be making very rapid strides in that regard. Dubai has had the shingle out for over a year. Every week I'm seeing more and more crypto companies go to Dubai because they're creating a really stable regulatory environment. So I think as those markets and regions continue to provide real certainty and the innovation goes there, then I think you will see the US and Europe and the UK catch up, because they'll have to. Otherwise, the innovation is just going to live somewhere else.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Even when we had the NFT wave, the craziness back then, quite a lot of projects were coming from Australia as well, at least projects we were following. What was it there that was kind of providing these conditions for the space to thrive? Was it just organic interest, or was it something else supporting it?
It's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I've done a lot of startups myself, and I'm Australian, and I've worked on a lot of startups in Australia, but also in the US and in Europe, and I don't know. I think we've got a sort of entrepreneurial spirit in Australia. There's some really good university programs like UTS, and I think there's just a lot of innovators in Australia that don't take no for an answer and just want to go out there and compete on the world stage. I think it's that entrepreneurial culture that's sort of behind it as much as any form of specific government regulation.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Right, so I want to touch base on something else. Prior to Smart Token Labs, you held senior marketing roles at Facebook, where you were head of brand, and Uber, where you were director of strategic partnerships. So how does marketing in the Web3 domain differ from your previous experiences? Are you doing things differently now?
I mean, yes and no. My perspective is that I've been through waves 1, 2, and 3 of the internet since 1999, doing startups and doing marketing and business development and partnerships, and it's always completely different, but also just completely the same. So some of the fundamentals remain the same. You have to find a single, you need to work out what problem you're solving, and you need a single-minded value proposition, and you need to be able to deliver, your story in a elevator pitch, a 30-second version, and then a long version of 90 seconds. And you need to be able to land that with a diverse range of stakeholders, whether that's in an ad or whether that's up on stage or in a podcast. If you can't do that, then you're going to fail with whatever marketing and partnership and business development work you do. So that always remains true. The channels continuously change. I think you would see, I've worked in some large advertising agencies as well, and I've been through the cycles of, back in 2000, it was all about personalization and one-to-one and CRM, and if you didn't understand personalization and one-to-one marketing, right, then then you were a broadcast marketer and you just didn't get it and you were going to fail. And, then there was kind of early stages of social media and influencers. And then there was this whole idea of earned media versus paid media, organic and earned and paid. And if you weren't on the pointy edge of earned and organic media, then you were going to fail. And, fast forward to Web3 and according to every Web3 marketer, community is now totally redefined, and your community members are going to define your brand. And if you don't let them own and shape your brand, then you are going to fail. And so none of those things have ever proved to be absolutely true. They're all experiments in innovation, in new ways of doing things, and there's always lots of lessons. And I love watching brands innovate in the Web3 space. I love seeing what Nike and Hugo Boss and Adidas and Time Magazine and you name it. I just think it's fantastic watching them innovate. But net, it always comes back to where's the material business impact coming from? And so whether it's,
Exactly.
I remember running ads on Second Life back in 2008 for a major bank in Australia. And, the question always comes back when people innovate in these new areas. At some point, once the experimentation window's over, the business is looking out, is it driving commercial, materially significant commercial outcomes for me? And if it's not, they move on. So I think, marketing's the same as it's always been. It's super difficult. It's really complicated. There's lots of channels. It's hard to prove ROI. Some of the fundamentals always remain the true. You have to be single-minded, and you have to make big bets, and you have to stick with them. And lots of different bets can work is my experience. The things I did at Uber are completely different to what I did at Facebook, and are completely different to what I'm doing in some of these startups. But they're all based on similar principles.
Exactly. At the end of the day, it all goes back to what's the value of your product and how do you communicate this value to users and partners.
Yep.
I'm so glad that the speculative phase of the Web3 space is almost gone. We all knew that was going to be a trend that will disappear, and we're probably past these times now. On that note, is education, this kind of bridging the gap between Web 2 and Web 3 that we've been talking for a while, still part of your role at the moment? In our previous conversation, you mentioned if it's too complex, it's too complex, right? So it's very hard to educate and sell at the same time, simply because if there is no natural demand or a need for something, it's very hard to convince people, oh, you really need that, you really should try it. What is your experience with this?
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly what you said. So it's impossible to both educate and sell at the same time. With new technology, you can't explain, it needs to be experienced. I've been through every variation of, you can go all the way back to the internet analogy-based marketing, like the information superhighway. When you first heard the information superhighway to describe what the internet was, it was just utterly meaningless. I had no idea what that meant. It wasn't until I got on a computer and I plugged it into the socket in the wall and a web page opened and my mind was blown. It's no different with mobile apps. I couldn't have imagined a marketplace experience like Airbnb or Uber in my hand on my mobile phone when the App Store first launched and I could play Angry Birds on a phone.
Right.
So trying to bridge into, my whole default is it's pointless. I hate doing it. I try and avoid doing it at all costs because I really don't believe in it. And yet here I am. I find myself, having to try and, paint forward use cases to explain new technology. I do it on LinkedIn. I've done it on LinkedIn quite a bit the last 6 to 12 months. I've been posting quite a lot on some of this new stuff. And I really enjoy doing it. I also hate it at the same time because it's inevitable when I'm posting, I'm going to get two streams back at me. People who believe in tokenization are excited by the prospect of it, and people who hate it and just really want to tell you that they hate it and that you are stupid. And so,
what do they hate about it?
I think with everything, so on one hand, it's massively overhyped. And so with every new technology wave, it's massively overhyped by a whole bunch of people. And the people who are, the really early innovators and early adopters that overhype things always can't help themselves but criticize the previous wave and say, you're all stupid because you don't get it. So the natural consequences of that is that there's a whole bunch of built up angst and tension and negativity amongst the established guard towards anyone who says anything about this new tech. So I understand it. So it's sort of like and it's always the same in the internet 1, 2, and 3. It's always been the same. So it just is what it is. Net, you're better off. You could never explain to someone tap and go with a credit card in a store, right? As you could never do a LinkedIn post on that and convince people that that is going to be transformative for them in terms of their shopping experience, because they're all going to say, I go to the store already and I put my credit card in and I enter 4-digit PIN and I walk out. What's the problem? What are you solving
and
for?
You used to go to the store and hand in cash.
Yeah, that's right. That was even faster, right?
Yeah,
it was perfectly fine. So why this tap and go thing's ridiculous? You guys are, it's ridiculous. But today, if you go into a store and somebody asked you to put your credit card in and tell me what account it is, is it debit, credit, savings, or check? And I'm like, I don't know. And if they ask me to enter my PIN, I just have a complete conniption, because it's basically 12 seconds of my life that I'm not going to get back now, because I have to stop and pause and enter in the PIN. And so, this removing friction in these sorts of things, it's just like getting out of an Uber and not having to do the transaction with the taxi driver. If you get in a taxi today, at the end of the trip, if you have to pay, it's just that last 15 or 30 seconds is just like it's like your fingernails on a chalkboard. But you can't explain that to people in advance, and they're not going to believe you that it's going to be transformative. So
exactly,
it's all. I think all new tech has the similar issues. So I feel very empathetic to both sides of the ledger. I feel very empathetic to people who are at the pointy edge of the new vanguard of new tech, trying to pioneer the way and copping a lot of criticism, and equally I feel for the established guard who are being told that they're no longer relevant, they don't get it, they're out of touch, everything that they've always done is stupid, because that's not true either.
Yeah, no, it's really sad to witness these negative vibes around the space. It's completely unnecessary. I get where it's coming from. Many people got burned. It was really ugly at some point. But we should probably be a bit more, kind of let people innovate a little bit more and see what happens, instead of trying to kind of shoot every new thing that appears on the market.
And crypto's got its specific problems, got its own specific thing. I mean, it's money, so you're innovating around particularly, the DeFi stuff, experiments within experiments within experiments, staking inside, pooling inside, staking based on, God knows what. And so it's all the rug pulls and all that sort of stuff. So it's when you're at the pointy edge of innovation and there's people's money at risk and there isn't, and it's unregulated environment, it's totally understandable that a lot of people out there have a very negative perspective on the space. I totally understand that. But hopefully, as you said, we're moving out of the wild speculation phase. The next wave's coming. It's going to solve more material business problems, and hopefully we'll get a very different experience this time around.
What do you think is going to be the next big wave in Web3?
I would probably say tokens is the integration point of the next web. That's my guess.
I'm not surprised here.
Yeah. I think I don't. Apart from that, I don't know. I think we're going to continue to see you'll still see innovation in and around, the incentive part of cryptocurrencies. The incentives and governance and new ways of mobilizing people. I think, we're right on the cusp of some amazing things happening around community mobilization of people around, really important things that governments aren't stepping up to the plate on because of the nature of how politics works and election cycles work. They can't tackle these long-term problems around mental health or environment. And you see these crypto projects and these DAOs springing up where they're using tokenomics to incentivize people to, make carbon credits too expensive for polluters to use them. And there's an economic model where you can invest in carbon credits and generate a financial return for yourself, but you're pricing carbon credits out of the market for the world's polluters. Those types of things, I think they got caught in the previous wave. I think, and I hope that we start to see, lots of that happening. DAOs within cities mobilizing people to tackle, contribute to and tackle things like homelessness and poverty and some of these really big societal issues where people care, but it's really hard for them to do anything. And I think blockchain, decentralization, the actual use of cryptocurrencies and these new incentive and governance models pave the way to a lot of innovation in those areas. So I'm excited about that.
It was an absolute pleasure to have this chat with you, Brent. Where can people find you if they want to connect with you?
Well, they can check out our project on smartlayer.network. That's launching in the next week. And I'm personally at linkedin.com/Brent Annells.
The Product Show is brought to you by Pony, a design studio helping startups and scale-ups build and optimize their digital products at speed. Check pony.studio to learn more.